What?
Subscribe.
Subscribe. We'll highlight all that. Don't you worry.
Just
But of
saying,
course,
you gotta remind people.
Subscribe right now.
Subscribe.
subscribe. Of course.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
I'm texting Kyle right now.
No, don't even dare.
I'm doing it.
Let it happen. Let it
No!
flow. The best
No!
moments of these shows are the ones that are completely out of pocket and completely come out of left field, and it makes this show so much better for the viewership instead of us censoring all of our stuff. Anyway, so that being said, as I have a coughing fit. Hello, everybody. Welcome in to Get in the Hole. Ben Pirro, Steve McAvoy, right here, live from the Underground on a Monday. Coming to you live from the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you can get a hold of both Ben and I, bringing you all the news, analysis, and betting tips from across the golfing world. And we are always, today and every day, proudly presented by the good folks at Tomahawk Shades. I can't say enough good things about this company week in and week out, and I feel like I've become a broken record trying to just hype them up. Not only because A, it's an ad read, I get it, but also B, at the end of the day, I do not endorse products that I don't love already. And Tomahawk Shades is one of those products that I absolutely endorse for not only the golf course, but just going to work every single day as I walk through Midtown Manhattan. The sunglasses that they have, anything from blue light glasses in the office to sunglasses outside on the course, first hole, 18th green, doesn't matter. Even out on the slopes, they now have patented goggles. Anything that you're looking for is all there at TomahawkShades.com. Rep by some of the biggest names in sports. We got Chris Hogan, the lacrosse and football expert. Excuse me. We have Dan Descalso, John Jay, bench coach for the Marlins. Jazz Chisholm rocks the Tomahawk Shades as the Yankees are in a decisive funeral game 4 right now against the Dodgers. And, of course, Paige Sporanic, who everyone knows and loves Paige. You can go check out everything at TomahawkShades.com, Tomahawk Shades app. Again, selection of blue light plus glasses, sunglasses, regular prescription lenses, goggles, you name it, they got it. TomahawkShades.com. Be sure to use code USP for 25% off your next order at TomahawkShades.com. Ben, we lead off the show today as there's a bit of a monumental shift happening in the world of golf, and there's no way that we can talk about anything going on further, whether it happened last week or this coming week, without discussing the unfortunate realities of what is going on at PGA Tour headquarters and in the offices of Jay Monahan and the Policy Board. The PGA Tour Policy Board, along with Monahan and his front office at PGA Tour headquarters out in Point Vedra, Florida, are possibly...
Jesus God.
What?
Ponte Vedra.
Sorry. Words. Are proposing some possible very radical reform that very well could change the overall landscape of the PGA Tour forever. It'll be voted on November 18th, and topics range anywhere from limiting field sizes from 156 down to 144, getting rid of Monday Qualifiers, as the PGA Tour has already notified PGA of America that they're removing them, dropping Korn Ferry Tour cards to the pros from 30 down to 20, capping Q School PGA Tour cards down to only 5, full exempt status being changed for the fall series as of 2026, if approved, from the top 150 to the top 100, from 101 to 125 would be conditional status, 25 less than what we currently have now, as well as reallocated sponsorship exemption spots for players to give access to the highest guys a priority, rather than allowing sponsor exemptions and other players' medical exemptions to be able to compete. And finally, which is a bit minor amongst the majority of the altering changes, would be reallocating point totals for the FedEx Cup standings. But the biggest thing of all of this comes down to the A, removal of Monday Qualifiers, B, the limiting of tour cards to only the top 100 players in the world, and removing the opportunity for not only more guys from Q School to enter their way right into the PGA Tour, but also the Korn Ferry Tour, and with the elimination of Monday Qs and limiting of short fields, the access that players have in order to find the guys and the diamonds in the rough who, without them, you might as well have never heard of Jake Knapp. You might have never heard of Nick Dunlap. You might have never even heard of Akshay Bhatia, to be honest with you. Ben, as somebody who is trying to make his way we've talked about this a lot, and I know we've kind of beaten the dead horse over all the issues that Jay Monahan has, and we've called for his head multiple times, and I will do it later. But as someone personally affected by it, and someone who knows people who are affected by this immediately, who are a little bit further ahead in the process than you are, where do you stand, and where do you find others possibly stand on these radicalized changes by the PGA Tour and its policy board?
I think it's pretty disappointing. I think that the PGA Tour has been trying everything that they can in recent memory to make the tour as exclusive as possible. And they wanted to limit the amount of guys, I believe, on tour at one point to like 100 or whatever the number was. And I was just like, that's absolutely ridiculous. Monday Qualifiers in particular have been a staple on tour for an incredibly long time. And you probably, you threw out some names for sure of guys who are young up and comers. I'm going to throw out another name for you. If it wasn't for Monday Qualifiers, you would not know who Patrick Reed was at all. And he's probably the best example of someone who's had an incredible amount of success. Whether you like him or not as a person, that's a whole other thing. But as a player, you wouldn't know who Patrick Reed is if it wasn't for Mondays. You wouldn't. I mean, I remember he Mondayed into, I believe it was the Zurich Classic. I think that's what it was. And he finished top 10. And so that ended up getting him into now this was back when the Zurich was a solo only event. It was not a team event back then. I believe he Mondayed into the Zurich, finished top 10, then drove with his wife, who caddied for him, to Charlotte for the Wells Fargo. Okay, this is before we ever had the elevated events and all that good stuff. Okay, and so he's probably, you wouldn't have known who, you might not know who this is, Steve, but Arjun Atwal. Arjun Atwal Monday qualified into the 2010 Wyndham Championship, I believe, and he ended up winning the event. Okay, and I personally know the people who he used to work with on his swing. Okay, and so I think that this is a very, very much so a monumental shakeup in the world of golf for players who have not made it to the big boy tour. And I'm going to take it a step further. When you lose your tour card, okay, at least when you're on the PGA Tour, you generally have some sort of safety net, so to speak, because you do have the Korn Ferry Tour, and you should have some semblance of status. Okay. That being said, if you lose your car on the Korn Ferry Tour, you don't. Okay. And so you are still able to play in all the Monday qualifiers that first year after losing your Korn Ferry Tour card. Okay. I know several players that has happened to. Not going to name names, but trust me on that. Okay. I know several of them that's happened to. It happens to guys every single year. And a lot of them will just fly, and they will play as many Mondays as they can. Okay, they'll fly to Fort Worth or wherever the Byron Nelson is. Hypothetically, they'll fly to California for it's a Napa Valley. They'll do that one. They'll play as many Mondays as they can because they're so much cheaper to enter. They're able to get into all of them. And those are tour caliber players. And I'm just going to throw something out there for you as well. We all know on this show who Mickey DeMorat is. Okay, he's a very good friend of mine. He's a friend of the show. Steve, you've only had a little bit of time interacting with him. I love Mickey to death. He is one of my favorite people on the planet. Mickey Monday qualified into the RSM Classic at Sea Island. He ended up shooting, I believe, either 63 or 64 in the first round of the RSM. And he was either tied for first or tied for second, whatever it was. Okay. And he made the cut. He made a nice check. And that's that. And I don't know if it's because the guys who are unfortunately running the show on the PGA Tour, which, by the way, is not the commissioner. It's not. It's the players. And I don't believe that there is any sport where the players should be running the show. The closest thing that we have to players running the show is the NBA. And the NBA is largely unwatchable because of it. Guys take nights off. Guys don't play both ends of the floor. College basketball, because I'm a college basketball snob, is now more entertaining than NBA basketball because it's all about the players. And Adam Silver has zero control and does not take accountability for the lack of structure in that league. Okay? The same thing is happening to the PGA Tour. Jay Monahan has absolutely no control over what is going on. Whether you want to look at the PIF, that whole situation, still there is not a deadline for that. We've been talking about that for
over a year at this point. Yeah, it's
going on 2 years, really. I mean, if we really think about it, we're going on 2 years. We have Rory wants to say, Jordan Spieth wants to say, Patrick Cantlay wants to say. And mind you, those are a lot of, and I have to say this because this is our platform. I have to be honest. Those are really some of the more unlikable guys on tour. Okay. I'd say Jordan of those three is the most likable of the three, but Cantlay, no one really has much respect for him. I lost a lot of respect for him, how he handled the Ryder Cup. The whole Ryder Cup situation, his slow play at the Masters, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. I thought he was slow playing Hovland on purpose in that final round. And Rory with his theatrics and his antics. I mean, give me a break. And I don't mean to be that guy. Those three players combined, and I'm sure that there are others involved with this as well. How many years of college education do they have?
not much.
What really gives them the ability to stand up there and say, this is how we're going to do it? Because Jordan Spieth lasted a year, and I don't blame him. He was so good. Cantlay, I don't think he graduated from UCLA, and Rory didn't go to college. I'd rather have someone with a college degree who knows the ins and outs of business like the back of their hand, like a Goodell, okay? And, say what you want about, Bob Manfred with the MLB doing a pretty damn good job, all things considered. But this is an overwhelming, it's a catastrophe for players trying to make it. It really is. Because you might not think that finishing 47th at a tour event as a Monday qualifier is a big deal. To a guy who doesn't have status, winning $45,000, hypothetically, without status is a massive deal. That covers almost all of your expenses for the year, and it gives you the opportunity to potentially play and actually gain sponsor exposure from other companies as well. So I think that's all. That's really all I have to say. You said you were going to rip them a new one. Have at it. The floor is yours. I'd rather not lose my temper because
I get it, and where you don't want to lose it, I will, because I am as a golf fan, and I've been fighting this for 7 or 8 months, and I've had my Twitter battles with trolls and just morons who are casual golf fans and say, oh, we want the absolute best players in the world. All right, then go watch LIV. If you want a leaderboard of 40 guys who played on the PGA Tour or are on the PGA Tour or were formerly and are all really good but past their prime, you can go watch that. If you want to see Dustin Johnson on a leaderboard, you can go ahead and do that. I personally enjoy watching storylines where Chris Kirk can go out and win an event after battling alcoholism for however long. Nico Echavarria this past week was supposed to be a top golfer in the world. One of the very few Colombian golfers next to Johnny Vegas and Sebastian Munoz, won his second event after winning the Puerto Rico last year, earned full-time status, got into an event, had no right to win this event, playing against Colin Morikawa, Justin Thomas, and Ricky Fowler and everybody else, and dominated out in Japan. I think has the 72-hole low score at that event in its 6-year existence. And the names that we've been able to see, even over the last year, 16 first-time winners on the PGA Tour. Taylor Moore, someone you probably never heard of until last year when he won at the Valspar. Matthew Pavon, very similar story. Again, was the sweetheart at the Olympics, came from France, played for France, won his first time at the Farmers. Max Homa, even 3 years ago, Well, yes, a top golfer who came out of Cal, it was because he won lower level events to get to where he is today. And the problem that I have with what's going to happen is you're reducing field size. So the guys that are already that are already considered alternates are now way off the list. The guys who can Monday Q in to events that, for example, would end up losing its status would be the waste management to be one. Most of the secondary events, including the Puerto Rico, the Cognizant Classic, the Mexico Open, the Corrales Punta Cana, and the Myrtle Beach, including also the Valspar, the Texas Children's Open, Houston Open, and the Valero, would also get numbers reduced from 4 qualifiers to 2 qualifiers. That leaves a hole. Corey Connors Monday queued for the Valero because he couldn't qualify 2 years ago and won the fucking thing. And this is a big-time player. And at that point was in a slump, had the Monday Q, got in, and won. He won his boots. And also with that, got into the Masters and then finished top 20 nonetheless. So getting rid of positions for not only lower tier players, guys who are trying to Monday Q in on the Corn Ferry Tour, guys who are even just playing mini tours and want to try and qualify into these events, you're ruining the opportunity for someone to at least get a break. That one opportunity. They always say, and they say it even now on a more real life scale for the people like me, in the job market, all you need is one interview, one opportunity to kill it, and you get a job. Why are we trying to limit it and make an exclusive club and allowing people who are, might I add, the top 25 golfers in the world, Patrick Cantlay, Jordan Spieth, formerly Webb Simpson, Adam Scott, Tiger Woods, like, why are we letting them determine that, oh, we should have membership limited to 100 seats? Even if it isn't Jay Monahan, it's probably pressure that's being put on by this strategic group of investors from John Henry and Arthur Blank, who gave $3 billion to the PGA Tour and want them to be more exclusive. It's probably pressure from the players that are scared of the talent pool. We say it all the time. There's been more parity in the sport ever. There are 35 guys who every single week can go win a PGA Tour event. When Patrick Cantlay was a rookie, probably was like 7. When Tiger Woods is a rookie, it was like 5. And the reason why Tiger Woods won all those events, and I don't mean to bash Tiger because he doesn't deserve it, really, he was playing in fields where he was the younger guy of a growing age group that he was able to just dominate everyone. He was playing in a 5-man tournament, essentially, with Vijay Singh, Davis Love, Ernie Els, who were well into their 30s, and this kid's 21 years old, fresh with legs. That's the reality. Like, we can call Tiger Woods the greatest golfer of all time, but he won because he got in as a low-level golfer and was able to play the big guys. Rory McIlroy did the same thing. Wyndham Clark 3 years ago was talking about trying to limit fields, won the U.S. Open, and all of a sudden is now on his high fucking horse. Guy hasn't done dick. Give me a break. Wyndham Clark's the last person that should be advocating for lower fields because he's one of the people who got in because of expanded fields. We wouldn't have known who Wyndham Clark was had he not been dominant in lower level events to get his way up to the elevated events and then be able to win a U.S. Open. His first event was U.S. Open wins. He said with Matt Fitzpatrick. Like, there are names and names and names that we can go over, but it's just sad that whether or not it's Jay Monahan, or it's the pressure from this new board, or it's the possible pressures from the PIF trying to make it more exclusive on that end too, or again, it's just the players. I understand the idea that we have a system that's different from the NBA and the NFL and the MLB. There's a PA. They handle the inner workings between the owners and the players. This is a little bit different. They're all considered ICs, and therefore they have their own player-driven board. But there is also a PGA board. There are people who make up a board of trustees, essentially, that oversee, that are independent directors who work for different companies, law firms, whatever, including the executive chairman of Valero, the co-chairman of one of the biggest law firms in the country. They also handle these things, and they talk to Jay Monahan. And they say, "Hey, this is what we want to do." I hope to God come November 18th that none of this gets approved, because there are going to be guys that are going to say, "Well, I want my spot secured." Like, if we move down, let's just say, right, the FedEx Fall ends today. Nikolai Højgaard doesn't get a PGA Tour card. He finished top 20 in every major this year, but he didn't play enough on the PGA Tour to get there. Ryan Fox wouldn't get a PGA Tour card. CT Pan would barely get a PGA Tour card. Let me run down even more names. Henrik Norlander wouldn't get a card. Joel Damon, Matt Wallace, Kevin Tway, Daniel Berger, guys who have been on these tours forever. Gary Woodland wouldn't even get a medical exemption after a brain surgery because they're not going to give out enough exemptions to get him into events. Like, how fucked up is that? The PGA Tour is in shambles, and I can say it all I want. Like, fire Jay Monahan, put his head on a stake outside of the headquarters. It's never going to happen, and it's all because the people who are in charge, the oligarchy that runs the PGA Tour, is essentially at this point in bed with Jay Monahan, and they just want to join the PIF, make a shit ton of money, and call it theirs. And tour players, the top 5%, are scared. They don't want their winnings being taken away. It's sad.
I think, first of all, very well done.
Thank you.
Proud of you. I want people to understand something. When you're in the position that Jay Monahan is in, or any sort of commissioner in professional sports, it really takes a lot of guts and, quite frankly, a lot of balls to be in that position. Okay, let's just call it how it is, because you're not going to make the right decision every single time. We've seen it numerous times in every single sport. Some subject matters are more touchy than others. We're not going to go there. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying every single commissioner has had a screw up along the way, and they have to eat it. Just like other normal people have screw ups every day. Like, you get pulled over for speeding, you're going to get a ticket. You got to eat it. I think in the case of the PGA Tour, because they are clearly in a time of transition, you and I have discussed this already, and I already know what you think. You and I have made it abundantly clear. Jay Monahan is not the right guy for the job.
Totally competent.
He's totally incompetent. It's almost as if he has rabbit ears. You have to have incredibly thick skin in order to do what he's trying to do. And I genuinely do not believe he possesses that at all. Okay? He has rabbit ears. He feels the heat. He feels the pressure. And he's just enabling the stars on tour, some of whom aren't really that relevant anymore anyway, to give them what they want. And unfortunately, it's screwing over potential superstars. Yeah, you know what? Who knows? Jake Knapp, that might be his only win on tour ever, and he might kind of be like Derek Ernst, a better version of Derek Ernst, who won a PGA Tour event, and that was literally it. I don't even think he ever had another top 25 after his win, before or after, actually. I'm talking about Derek Ernst, not.
Yeah.
But you never know. Superstars, you never know who the next superstar is going to be. Okay, everyone thought that Ty Tryon was going to be the next superstar, right? Dead wrong. Played one year on tour, had one top 10, lost his card, and never played at the big boy level ever again. Okay, and then you have these guys who come out of nowhere, who you're not expecting much from, haven't even heard from them, haven't even heard about them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, I never really realized, like, oh my gosh, this guy's so good. Who is this guy? And he ends up becoming an absolute stud. People, I've said this before on the show, and I know you know this. Rory McIlroy almost lost his European Tour card.
Yeah.
Rookie. Okay? People don't realize that. He almost lost hard. Okay? And yeah, he was viewed as a guy with a lot of talent, but he wasn't a superstar. Well, how did he become a superstar? Well, he started playing really well with the opportunities that he was given. And now we're just taking opportunities away from guys who could be potential superstars. Meanwhile, you've lost the majority of superstars to your rival tour, and no one's watching them anyway. But still, your ratings are down, and it's because of a lack of superstars. And you're just going to take potential superstars away from the viewing public potentially. I think that is a catastrophic mistake. I think that is a big, fat mistake. And people don't realize, and I know you know this because you're intelligent, you understand the game, and I know people who cover the game who are worth their salt. They understand this too. In pro golf, the line is so razor thin. It is so razor thin. Yes, I understand Dustin Johnson back in his heyday was much better than the guy who probably finished 115th on the Korn Ferry Tour. But the guy that finished 115th on the Korn Ferry Tour, he's really not that far off to being the 115th player in the FedEx Cup points on the PGA
Exactly.
Tour. That line is so razor thin, and all it takes is a little bit of luck, maybe performing a little better under pressure, and then all of a sudden you have more confidence, you become a superstar. And you start making putts that matter. It's really, that's how razor thin these edges are, man. And we're just taking these opportunities away. You want to make it like the boys club, go for it. But at the end of the day, I think they could potentially look back and be like, what were we thinking? Like, why did we, whoever is, and I have no idea how Jay could ever really lose his job at this point. I have no idea what the inner workings are, but whoever the next commissioner is going to have their hands absolutely full and is going to have to completely, basically untie and undo an absolute mess. So at the end of the day, this is what happens when you are insecure and incompetent and you're really not fit for the job. You make really poor decisions and you listen to people who you probably shouldn't listen to. Don't ever take advice from someone that doesn't really know the inner workings of what you're doing. It never works well.
Kay says you tell them.
I appreciate that, Kay.
No, it's amazing because but the PGA Tour pays Jay Monahan $18.6 million to lead a pack of morons. And I don't want to ruffle feathers and call out anybody who might be within his team that actually has some sense. Look, it's the same thing with any political candidate we have. They have good people, but are they going to listen to them? No. But at the end of the day, and Ryan French, MondayQ Info, had wrote a whole article about this last year. He said, unless the PGA Tour Policy Board opts to try and oust Jay Monahan, he's not only secure in his job, but he might be as entrenched as ever with how the PIF negotiations going. He's already been announced as the CEO of the for-profit enterprise whenever they come out with that, if it even happens. They have plans for Jay Monahan to be here until he's freaking dead. This guy's going to be like a Supreme Court justice. He's going to be 98 years old on the fucking pallet, ready to die. And they're going to be like, Jay, what you want to do? It's going to be absolutely horrific. And unfortunately, there's no way to get rid of him. And the people who are involved are, like I said, they're scared of getting lost. They're scared of losing any ounce of dollars that they can get. And like you said, it's razor thin. The difference right now between the 125th player in the FedEx Fall who's going to earn a tour card, granted there's 3 events left, but the difference between Matt Wallace and Joe Highsmith, 125 and 126, is 2 FedEx Cup points. Not even a stroke. That's literally a luck of the draw. How did you shoot over 4 days? Who has the better score? It's such a crapshoot with any instance in golf. And like you said, I would even argue the 200th guy on the Korn Ferry Tour. You know what? Some guys who are still in Q school could not, just because of bad luck, are not in a position than somebody who's let me just find a random name, Rafael Campos or Joseph Bromlett or Chesson Hadley. Because of one shot, it could have been that they could be in that position, but they're not. That's how crazy golf is. And the fact that we're trying to limit the opportunity is insane. It's the equivalent of the MLB trying to crunch down and just having MLB and AAA teams. You're going to lose all this potential talent and you're going to make guys fight even harder. And we talk about it all the time. We talk about how taxing and emotionally abusive golf can be to your mentality. Guys are going to be quitting golf left and right because at some point they're like, I just can't do this. I just can't deal with the mental frustration of I need to literally be perfect every single day. And if I do one thing wrong, I misread one putt, the putt breaks one way, I shank one ball into the woods, I'm fucked. That's what's happening. And on top of that too, we have an over evaluation from anybody outside of the golf world, particularly the media, and this segues well into my next point here, is that we have a situation happening with like Tom Kim and how he broke a locker at the KPGA Championship, and everyone's fucking calling for his head. Like, dude, he got frustrated and he accidentally broke a door. He said he'll pay the damages. He's openly said, he's like, I would never do anything like that to insult people. I got a little emotional. We saw on freaking on Full Swing, Rory McIlroy and Ian Poulter throwing clubs at the locker room with the PGA. We've seen Rory McIlroy tear his shirt off at a European Tour event for getting frustrated because he got edged out in the final hole. And we want to, and the media hyper fixates on these small little things. It's going to drive guys absolutely freaking insane once they realize, oh yeah, I got to fight 25 more spots, which again, from 125 to even 100, we're talking 150 points, maybe 5 spots in standings. That's insane. Let's move on. I want to get your. Oh yeah, sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Tom Kim thing, man. Jeez. Like, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was kind of funny. Like, I mean,
I thought it was too. Are we segueing here, or do you have anything more on the?
Oh, are we talking about Tom Kim?
It segues well in, so might as
well.
Oh,
okay. I thought that was.
Yeah, I want to get into this because I think.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the biggest bullshit. The guy he put a statement out. He said he'll pay the damages. He's openly apologized to the entire country of South Korea. Like, what more do you want this guy to do? This poor freaking 24-year-old just trying to have a little bit of emotion. I think it was, and I forget who this was, 3 or 4 years ago at a KPGA event. Some guy like gave the finger to like the hole after it like broke a certain way, and he got banned for like 3 years.
Oh, I think that was.
It was Ben Kim, wasn't it?
Oh, I've seen someone else give the hole the finger. I can't remember the name though, but
yeah, a 3-year suspension. It was
pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I've seen Tommy Fleetwood give the hole the finger too.
I would absolutely butcher his name if I even tried it. Yeah, Bio Kim got a 3-year suspension from the Korean Tour for slamming the club in frustration, hearing a fan's cell phone go off while he hit a shot, and then gave the guy the finger. 3 years in Korea. Like, you might as well go to the gulag at that point. Jesus Christ. And everyone wants freaking Tom Kim's head? Give me a break, dude. Dan Rappaport showed more emotion about the Tom Kim locker break than him reporting about this ridiculous agreement that's going to be voted on by the PGA Tour Policy Board. As if that's normal, but Tom Kim's thing is like, oh my God. It's ridiculous.
So, we live in a world where people like to tear down, regular people like to tear down successful people. Because in the world, there are winners and then there are losers. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're going to sit there and you're going to tear someone down, and I'm sure you and I have maybe done it to a certain degree regarding some tour players, even though we have a legitimate reason not to like some of them, everyone loses their shit eventually. It's happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you when you've played. Like, everyone has lost their mind at some point.
Of course, yeah.
We have seen some of the best athletes in the history of sports lose their mind. I remember watching. I mean, I've seen Tom Brady throw his helmet. I've seen Tom Brady scream at coaches. I've seen Tom Brady scream at players. I've seen Aaron Rodgers scream at players.
Dude,
I have seen Peyton Manning scream at players.
Myles Garrett lost his mind and flung his helmet at Mason Rudolph with no helmet on. Like, this man assaulted and batteried a man on a football field. Like, are we kidding?
That's a little different. Regardless.
No. It was out of frustration.
But regardless, I find it so hilarious and ironic that people in the media just choose to pick on athletes or public figures when they have a bad day. It's like, yeah, like you haven't had a bad day before. Like you haven't lost your shit in your house where no one has been around to see you. Okay, everyone has bad moments every single day. All right, and unfortunately, when you're in the public eye, like Tom Kim, who is a star, I truly believe he's a star. You are judged under a microscope, and it is unfair. It's not cool. It's not fair, and unfortunately, this is what comes with it. You know, I don't really understand what the big deal is. He's going to pay for the damages. He was upset. He's 24. We've seen Tiger Woods lose his mind as well. We've seen Rory McIlroy snap clubs and break clubs and everything. We've seen it all. I've seen a caddy break his players club. Okay? I have seen it all. I just think everyone needs to check themselves if you're going to sit there and you're going to judge someone in a private setting, because that happened in the locker room.
Yep.
That is the locker room as a professional athlete or as a non-professional athlete, high school or college, that's your sanctuary.
Exactly.
And you can't do the things that you need to do to let yourself just relax and let out some frustration. What are we doing? You know? I mean, geez, like, what was his other option? The hotel room?
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
wait 20 minutes? Like,
wait 20 minutes and then break a lamp in the hotel room? You know, like, seriously. I think it's so funny how people are so quick to judge and point out the flaws of individuals, because we're all flawed at the end of the day. We are. Yeah. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. You know, Jay Monahan isn't perfect. At the end of the day, I think everyone needs to check themselves and understand, like, everyone's human. Let's stop holding these kids, because a lot of them are kids still, to such a high standard and putting them on a pedestal, because they're not really asking for it. They just happen to be really good at something that takes place in the public eye.
Yeah. I think the worst part about it too, and I don't mind. It's one thing to talk shit and give someone crap about small things. Like, we remember when I was chirping Grayson Murray, may he rest in peace, at the U.S. Open, flung a club, got all frustrated. I made a comment on Twitter about how him and Kevin Na slow play beef, and he chirped back. And to be quite honest with you, like, I thought it was funny because Grayson Murray at the time was a well-known, like, hardcore Republican who was very much bold and brash and didn't give a shit about what anybody said. So it was fun to be able to chirp somebody who was not well received. It's the same thing if someone goes to chirp Patrick Reed, like he wasn't well received, or when Bryson DeChambeau was amidst his Brooks thing, albeit I'm a Bryson fan, but I totally understand the Brooks fans trying to get all up under his skin, because it's fun to get in the headspace. I was one of the premier hecklers back in college at hockey and basketball games.
Yeah.
Like your job as a fan of somebody or a team is to heckle your opposing players, get in their head, build real estate. I chirped multiple NHL level like players in college. I had parents approach me and say, "You're the worst kind of person." I said, "Dude, I do this for an hour and a half on a Saturday. Then I go to the bar and I drink. I have a 4.0 GPA. I'm living life. I'm just going to do my thing. I'm not going to do any of this after I graduate in 4 years." It's the equivalent of somebody of like people saying you're not an alcoholic after you graduate. Like, I'm not going to be this moron when I'm 35 years old screaming at guys from fucking left field at Citi Field when no one can hear me. No, that's ridiculous. I'm probably gonna have a child with me. I don't want to look like a fucking moron in front of my kid. The worst part about all this, though, is that we're talking about Tom Kim, one of the nicest guys on tour, one of the most respected and loved young players in this league. And we're going to hyper vocalize our opinions about this and call him out because he's having a bad day. It's one thing, again, if it's Patrick Reed. It's one thing if it's Bryson DeChambeau. It's one thing if it's even Rory McIlroy. People want to give him shit. Tom Kim hasn't hurt anybody. He goes and plays golf. He smiles and he has fun. He's a fun-loving 22-year-old kid who's just here, who has a immense talent, and we should appreciate that instead of probably the first instance of his entire career where we have seen him verbally upset. We're going to get on him for this over a door. He didn't beat anybody up. He didn't go home to his girlfriend and beat her up. Because God forbid we don't even discipline that in pro sports. We totally allow it. Like, it's a door. Let it be. And you know what? If he gets disciplinary action from the KPGA, so be it. But as he said, he immediately apologized. He apologized to them. He apologized to the club. He apologized to the DP World Tour, and he considered the case closed. That's it. That was from his mouth. False reporting or not, that's the truth. And I totally side with Tom Kim, and I think it's ridiculous that we're even getting into a conversation like this because it boils my blood within the first two topics of the day. We're 40 minutes in, and I'm like, I'm going nuts. And as somebody who's in the media too, like, slow up. It's just completely out of line and ludicrous. We need to shift over a little bit. I'm going nuts.
Okay.
Oh God. All right. Let's get into something a little bit more fun. So last year I pointed this out to the masses once Nico Echavarria won at the Puerto Rico. I said, this kid's going to be really, really good one day. And then I looked back in the record and I realized that most guys who win the Puerto Rico Open don't ever win again in their PGA Tour careers. The only exceptions to that are Tony Finau, Victor Hovland, and Akshay Bhatia. I didn't hear.
That's good company, though.
Well, for 14 years of it, and a lot of guys who do end up winning it kind of just fade into existence. These are also four very talented golfers that like fall into a microcosm amongst all this. Didn't hear from Nico Echavarria for another 9 months. Thanks, Nico, for that one. Totally left my awesome point in the dust. But finally, that's okay because he's back. Is able to get into the Zozo Championship, the limited field 70-man event, jumps from 113th in the world all the way up to 66th. You very well might see him on your TV at Pebble Beach later on in the year. A huge jump for Nico Echavarria, scorching out Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler and Colin Morikawa, Sai Tagala, and the like. This very well might be the breakout that Nico Echavarria needed. There have been guys in the past, we mentioned it on the show prior, that have come to the Zozo, have played in a very strong field, have won, and have gone on to have dominant years. There have been younger guys who have won or came in second and have gone on to have tremendous years. Could this possibly be the breakout that Nico Echavarria needed? Someone who was highly touted 4 years ago, came onto the Corn Ferry Tour, took his time to get here, and has finally now has 2 PGA Tour wins in 2 years.
I think so. I think he has. First of all, his move is really good. He hits down on the ball a lot, but he hits it so straight. It looks like he kind of just hits like this little baby fade. But at the end of the day, I mean, the kid's got all the shots. He's incredibly talented. You can tell he's incredibly disciplined with his work ethic as well. And that's something that you need. If you're going to be a mainstay on the PGA Tour, you have to, or in anything, you have to have a very strong work ethic. And it's pretty obvious that he has that. And so, I think a lot of times when you see a young player win early, that can kind of alter their expectations of themselves. And I think that that's a trap that a lot of players fall into. They might expect themselves to be perfect. They might expect themselves to be better than what they actually are. And that can create just unnecessary pressure on the player to perform well. That's a real thing. And we've seen it time and time again. A guy will win a major, and all of a sudden it's like, geez, like what happened to him? Like he's just like not playing well. And it's because you have all those expectations. You might be reading a little more than you probably should about what people are saying about you. Whatever was going on there, I think he's probably over it now because he just won for a second time. And I do believe that he's going to have, I could totally see him making the Tour Championship. I think he's that level of golfer. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen, but he's quite a special talent for sure. And again, he's one of those young guys, could be a potential superstar. So
it's funny. So Nico, despite he isn't really young, I shouldn't call him young. He's 30 years old. He graduated in 2017 from Arkansas, was highly touted coming out, had to fight his way through the Latin America's tour for 2 years, earned his tour card in 2019, got cut off in 2020 because of COVID, and finally managed after 2 years on the KFT, earned his card, and literally 3 weeks later won the Puerto Rico. Also, I stand corrected, he actually beat Akshay at the Puerto Rico for his first win. So it's only him, Finau, and Hovland who fit in that category. Anyhow, his game reminds me a lot of Joaquin Niemann, and I don't know if it's the South American like bias here, one being Chilean, one being Colombian, but he has a very similar kind of style in the way he plays and the way he hits the ball. It's a very dramatic sort of swing. I think with the experience that he's had over the last 6-7 years of playing the pro game, I think he's starting to take form and understand the key components that he needs in order to get these wins. And 30 years old for someone who has been fighting like this for a long time, still has only ever played in 2 majors in each of the last 2 years, has a lot of raw talent, but not a lot of exposed talent. You can almost consider him on the same playing field as your average 26-year-old golfer because he still has really healthy legs. He hasn't played a ton because he hasn't had to. And he has the skill set to be able to challenge some really talented golfers. I see no reason to not believe that this could be a breakout year for the Colombian. Has the skill, has gotten bigger and has gotten stronger, hits the ball really far, putts it really well. His approach game has been tremendous over the last 18 weeks. Been one of the best on tour. So I can very well see a breakout year for Nico Echavarria, particularly after you're able to compose yourself and play in a field and basically be chased by Justin Thomas for a whole 4 days. That's a lot to go through. And to be able to hold that lead, 54-hole lead, and convert it is huge. Let's take a short break, though. On the other side, we'll talk a little bit on the FedEx Fall standings, who was some of the winners and losers that we saw at the Zozo, and what to expect. We're only 3 events left to play. As we jump from Japan to the Caribbean, who needs a big jump with, again, 3 events to go in the fall series. Don't go anywhere, folks. Ben and Steve right here from the Underground on the Get in the Hole podcast.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by PHI Apparel Company, our incredible merch partners. PHI Apparel Co. provides unique designs and high-quality clothing from t-shirts to hoodies for every golfer around. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you'll stand out on the course, the driving range, or at the 19th hole. Go to phiapparel.co and use code UNDERGROUND at checkout for 10% off any order. That's code UNDERGROUND at phiapparel.co and grab exclusive Get in the Hole podcast merch and support your favorite golfers.
What's going on, everybody? This episode of the Get in the Hole podcast is brought to you by our friends over at Acorn Hills. And as the great Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, the creation of 1,000 forests is in one acorn. Acorn Hills Company would like to add, it is what one does with that acorn that creates a better tomorrow, to the end of that quote. Nate, amazing guy. It was awesome meeting Nate when we first brought Acorn Hills on board and they got on board with us. The founder of Acorn Hills puts ink to the paper of this story with a vision he saw for a better tomorrow through clothing. As an outdoorsman himself, Nate set out to combine his 2 passions, looking good and the great outdoors, whatever that activity may be, by providing things such as biodegradable packaging and plantable clothing tags, which, if you haven't heard, are basically the coolest idea ever. We pay homage to our Acorn logo by practicing what we preach. Along with this, Acorn Hills focuses on giving back to its community by taking the initiative to help revitalize forests and areas of land that fill this great place we call Earth. With a percentage of sales donated to charities and organizations such as the National Forest Foundation and others that align with these goals, we create this better tomorrow. People have asked, why choose clothing? It's simple, really. When you look good, you feel good, and when you feel good, you do good. We just help you get there. Although Nate may have been alone when he started this, our roots now run very deep. You'll never look at acorns the same way again, huh? You're welcome. You guys can go to acornhillsco.com Check out all the awesome apparel and merchandise they have available to you. And when you go to checkout, use code GITH15. That's GITH15 for 15% off your next order from our friends at Acorn Hills. And look your best from the ground up. Now, let's get back into the episode.
Get in the Hole is brought to you by Kenwood Beer. Who's Kenny, you might ask? Well, he's smooth, he's clean, and bright with a taste to boot. Kenny's the routine choice of folks who want a balanced, flavorful, no-frills beer that's right for literally any occasion. Only 120 calories and 8 grams of carbs. Some might call it the best light beer they ever had. We just say you can't beat the original. Head to kenwoodbeer.com and use the Kenny tracker to find where you can get your hands on some ice-cold, refreshing Kenwood beer from your favorite liquor stores in the Pennsylvania, New Jersey, or Maryland areas, as well as at the Wells Fargo Center and beyond. Must be 21 years or older to consume, and of course, please drink responsibly. The Yankees are down 2-0
I'm loving it.
after the first inning. Do you know who scored the runs for the Dodgers?
Well, Freddie Freeman just homered in his 6th straight World Series game.
Yeah, that
Jeez.
guy is an absolute stud.
He is incrable. Great guy. Great.
Frederick Charles Friedman, better than anybody else who's on that field. And
I genuinely, he's such a nice guy.
yeah,
I'm just gonna say one thing. Hey, Yankees, just whatever you do, keep Juan Soto nice and upright for the Mets. That's all I'm gonna say. I genuinely believe the Yankees believe the Mets are the biggest threat. I think that's what the report said.
I think that
they're actually nervous about the Mets poaching him.
If Juan Soto goes anywhere, he goes to one of 4 places. He goes to either New York, Queens. He goes to Washington, D.C.
There's no way.
Yeah, believe me. I think he can. Dark horse. The San Francisco Giants. Or, and don't sleep on it, but if Dave Dombrowski can find the money, the Phillies might make a push at him. I don't think he goes to the Yankees. After he's realized what's happening here, the window is closing. It is not nearly as big as what he thinks. The Yankees are a lost cause, and also you would be in the shadow of Aaron Judge for the next 10 years. Who wants that? Washington, growing team, very young team, very cheap team, and also he has a well-known love for Washington. I think he could very well go home and be like LeBron in Washington. It would be amazing for him. But however, of course, I would love for him to be a Met and shove it down the Yankees' throats.
You know, some people think the Dodgers could be in play too, and I do believe the Dodgers could be in play. And here
they always are.
Well, because they have all that deferred money. You know, so they could actually sign him and just sign him to a I'm going to say quote unquote normal contract. It's because it's going to be a gigantic contract.
If the Dodgers get Juan Soto, we need to cancel the 2025 season. Like immediately, just like cancel it. Like bring in a new pandemic. Like it's horrific.
You're an idiot.
Absolutely horrific to see Juan Soto in Dodger blue. Let's get into the FedEx Fall stock watch. Some winners and losers at the Zozo. Surprisingly, not a lot of movement happened at the Zozo. Granted, only a 70-ish man field played this week, but of course, Justin Thomas finishing second. Really good looks for the growth going into this year. Then again, he's been kind of getting better. Another shock. Ricky Fowler, his first top 5 since he won the Rocket Mortgage. Believe this, a year and a half ago. How crazy is that? It's been over 18 months since Ricky Fowler's at a top 5. Who would have thought that after the comeback player of the tour, comeback player of the year season he had, has finally managed to crack a top 5. Sai Tagala and Colin Morikawa both finished outside the top 50. Very, very upsetting there. Have not had great falls so far. Tagala especially. Nico, of course, jumps from 113 to 65th. Joel Damon back in the hunt from 129 to 124. And as we had said earlier on the show, Matt Wallace is the new 125. He falls 1 spot, along with Joe Highsmith, who falls down 1 spot. And with that, Kevin Tway, Alejandro Tosti, and Daniel Berger all follow suit, moving down one spot. Dan Berger's got to do something in the next 3 weeks in order to get back on tour. We'll see how that one goes. Let's push over quickly into our preview here of the Worldwide Technologies. We only have 3 events to go. We're actually, it's kind of crazy to think about. I was talking to some friends the other day, and actually Kay had her bridal shower a week ago.
Congratulations, Kay.
She says thank you. She's stressing out over other wedding things now. I'll be there in a minute. We were talking about how like all the girls, I think at her bridal shower was like 50 days till the wedding, and they're like, oh, like 50 days, like how's it gonna feel once it's over? And it's like shit, like we're so close. It's literally going to be Thanksgiving in 4 weeks, our wedding, and then it's Christmas time. And it's like, where the hell did all the time go from all this planning? It feels kind of the same way here. We only have 3 weeks to go. The Hero World Challenge is set for the weekend of my wedding, so we literally have a month. Once Thanksgiving rolls around, the FedEx Fall is over, and we get set, sit in the seats, enjoy the 2.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks, and we get ready for the Century in January. What are we gonna do? What's gonna happen to some of these guys who need to jump, who need to push going into this week? A event at El Cardinal down in the Caribbean. Formerly used to play at Mayakoba for the Worldwide Technologies. Of course, that got taken up by Liv. So Tiger Woods' El Cardinal de Monte golf course. Who need to push this week in order to get themselves back on tour for next year?
Oh, you're asking me.
I'm asking you.
I mean, look, it's the guys who are barely inside or barely outside the top 125. That's who needs it. I mean, look, if you're Joel Damon, you need as much breathing room as you can get.
You're sweating.
What's that?
You're sweating the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, all those guys are. I mean, Berger needs a big. I think Berger, honestly, I think he's a sleeper pick to win at one of these 3 events. I genuinely believe that. He has played better as of late. I think he's finally healthy, which is great. Because remember, he was one of those guys where we were like, oh, geez, like this guy's like, he has the makings of becoming a potential superstar, and he won at such a young age, and he really just fell off the map. And injuries do that. It's a cruel game. Sports, a lot of times it doesn't have a heart, and so I think those guys in particular. I mean, Joel, I think, is more so known for just being absolutely hilarious, and Full Swing definitely helped the public realize that. But Berger was known more for his game, really.
Yeah.
And so much more than Joel. No disrespect to Joel, but I think we've seen the high end of both, and Daniel's high end has been much better. So that being said, look, I mean, guys like Wesley Bryan, same deal. He's 130. I think the last time I checked, he was like
138.
Yeah. Oh, is he still 138?
Yeah.
Okay. Look, he's 138. If you had told me at the beginning of this year, that Wesley Bryan was going to be 138 and had a chance to get his tour card back, I would have thought you lost your mind. I would have thought you were high or potentially had a stroke. As they said so eloquently in The Big Short, one of my favorite movies of all time. Regardless, though, he's another guy to watch out for. Zach Johnson, another guy to watch out for. I mean, it really is. There's a lot of mainstays that are going to be sitting at home a lot next year if they don't perform how they can perform. So,
look at him. That's my quant. Your what? My quantitative? He won a math competition in China. His name's Yang. Actually, my name's Chris, and actually I came second, and it was in the States. It's one of the funniest movies of all time.
It's actually John.
John? It's John? Shit, never mind. But you get look, Sam Ryder, 137. Kevin Streelman, back end of his career, but still looking 139. Nick Hardy, 140. There's even guys who have conditional status that are trying to chase full-time status. Michael Torbjornsen falls in there. Pearson Coody from Texas. Even like Taylor Montgomery, someone who I said 2 years ago was going to be the rookie of the year possibly, and got totally wiped out. What's happened to Taylor Montgomery? He's 132nd in the world needs a big jump. Tristan Hadley, Brandon Wu, Hayden Buckley, Garrett Higo, all currently in that 135 to 150 range, needs a lot in order to survive. Justin Suh is at 160. The list goes on, and we get down to a point where it's almost impossible to see these guys on tour next year. Scott Stallings, Brant Snedeker, Callum Tarrant, who had a really good open run 2 years ago, Kelly Craft, Alexander Bjork, lots of guys who need to do a lot of work in order to get back into the limelight. Lonto Griffin as well, Austin Smotherman. Yeah, like there are a ton of names, but between those guys who are on the outside and even the guys on the inside, Zach Blair stands out, Michael Kim, Carson Young, we see him almost every single week on tour. Even like a Ryan Fox, he's at 108. He's safe right now, but a missed cut here, a top 50 there, might be in a position to fall out really quickly. Like we see it all the time when the playoffs roll around, that like final week, one stroke can drop you 4 spots real quick, and you don't even see it coming. Tom Kim missed out on the playoffs last year. He went double bogey double, I think. Like that right there just shows you that's 4 strokes. You're all of a sudden dropping 12 spots out of the top 100 in order to make the playoffs. It's like crazy.
So I don't mean to be the bringer of bad news, but we don't have a tour event this week, Steve.
Here we go.
No, we don't. They have a week off.
There's no way.
I'll bet you $50 right now. I'll even give you my Venmo because I have Venmo.
You're kidding me.
Because I was looking for the odds and I was just like, I can't find them. And then I was like, well, no wonder. It's not until next week.
There's no event this week. Holy shit, there's no event this week.
You're doing such a good job, too.
You were. Oh.
You were doing such a good job, Steve. And you just got so excited because I was like, we can't do beer money either. This is so embarrassing. Like, this is not a good look.
You know what the nice thing is, though? The nice thing is that we can clip this whole thing out and we can push it to next week.
Yes, we can.
I don't know if you've ever seen it like on radio, but like before a show, they'll do like, this episode of so-and-so was pre-recorded. And then it'll go right into the show.
Yep.
Like, we'll just do that.
That's fine.
Oh, man. We really fucked up, didn't we?
Well, you did. You're the one that put the schedule together.
It's funny because I had this same like epiphany moment. We put the show out on Wednesday and it said, oh, like pairs for, or like, yeah, put the show out on Wednesday. And on like Friday, the PGA Tour comms Twitter put out the pairings, and it's the pairings for the final round of the Zozo. I go, final round? It's tomorrow, Saturday. They thankfully messed up. But I was like, wait a minute. It's the same thing like when the Farmers happens, or it's the Farmers, or it's another one that like it runs from like a Wednesday to a Saturday to avoid playoff football on Sunday. Always gets me. All right, well, it's a good thing we don't have to do beer money this week.
Yeah, because you're losing.
Well, I'm losing. I need a week of prep.
Yeah, you do.
Sounds good to me. Well, with that being said, we do have guys who need to do pretty good in order to advance over the next 3 weeks. We need guys to perform at a certain level. But the good thing is for them, they have a whole entire week to get prepared for it. And we'll see how things go next week. Of course, as I butcher this show, and honestly, I butcher something in most shows, let's be honest. I'll be totally open to that. Yeah, there you go. It's like in PTI, we need like Tony Reale like here in the top corner to like read us all of our errors and like throw the paper at the camera. I guess with that being said, we might as well get going as things are falling off of my desk.
Yeah, come on, I'm hungry.
That's been episode 178 of the Getting the Whole podcast. I've been Pirro, Steve McAvoy. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a comment, and of course, vote in our weekly poll. If you have 5 extra seconds, leave us a 5-star rating. The engagement is huge for us there. Go on social media at Getting the Whole Pod. Follow us and like. And, of course, leave comments. Let us know what you want added to the show on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. And, of course, at Underground Sports PHI on YouTube. Continue to help us and the entire Underground Sports Network monetize our channel. Get us to a level where Ben and I can be the modern-day Jake Paul and KSI. Maybe we'll start a drink brand like Prime. We'll call it Cred, like in the South Park episode. Which, by the way, you need to watch that. It's really funny. With that being said, that's episode 178. We'll see you next week. Hopefully, I won't fuck that one up either. Oh my god!
Could you stop recording? It's still recording.
I pressed end recording.
Dude, it's still recording.
An error occurred. Wait a moment. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!